What game would you say you have the most hours in? If you check your library right now, there's probably a game you've played so much that you'd be confident in saying that you're better than the majority of players that also have played the same game. For me, it's Minecraft. What did you expect? Minecraft good. Get Java though. We all have a game like that. A game where you player would simply have no chance against the level of progress or skill you would have in comparison, whether that's due to playtime, acquired knowledge, equipment, or abilities. All of which are types of video game progression systems. A progression system is not necessarily a necessity in today's game standards, but also used to not be a thing at all. The first games to appear were on arcade, where progression was seemingly non-existent. Losing at a game meant having to pop in another quarter. Nowadays, it all depends on what kind of direction the devs want to take their game. Although a lot of them might not have an in-game system to make you progress, all the ways to make you go forward can be considered progression. Personally, in my own opinion, from my point of view, on a personal note, some ways just feel better than others, and I will explain why. The first type of progression is very likely one you have seen or experienced before. It involves armor, weapons, tools, or equipables that have stats linked to them. A lot of the time, games using this progression system will have a massive emphasis on crafting or looting, since the only thing allowing you to be able to get to harder monsters or areas in these games is the quality of the tools you have. I usually like games that use this type of progression, but also feel like I'm not truly making progress. Equipment, armor, and weapons are only tools. You can, at all times, unequip them and instantly be back to square one.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation. Well, it all started 2 days ago.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think this system is a bad one. I just prefer when my character itself gets better or stronger, without relying on equipment. This method of progression is very good at making you feel like, without that armor, without that weapon, you're still at a basic level. Fragile compared to the hostile environment you try to thrive in. Games that rely solely on this type of progression system are usually loot-based. I've been playing a bunch of Monster Hunter World, and it is exactly the system the game uses. Fighting monsters to get monster parts to craft armor, to kill their monsters, to make more parts, to craft armor, to kill better monsters, to make more parts, to craft armor, to kill better monsters, to make more parts, to craft armor, to kill elder dragons, to get more parts. Path of Exile uses multiple types of progression, but uses ultimately the armor system quite a bit. Although you just kind of find the armor you need on the ground, randomly. You just gotta wait for it, I guess. Terraria is a great example of a tool-based progression. The whole game revolves around making better equipment for yourself. Whether it's armor, tools, weapons, accessories, everything you do is to get better stuff for yourself. And I mean everything. Quick set! There are 67 armor sets in Terraria, not including setlist random armor pieces. There is a cactus armor. Literally just an armor made of cactus. Relogic stealing my Minecraft Kid PvP kid ideas, I'm suing. Starbound also has a similar armor system. I would not include games with durability mechanics because equipping an armor piece which will eventually break is not progression. It is merely a temporary buff. A long one, but still temporary. Especially if there's an item drop on death mechanic. Now we're getting into the real stuff right there. When talking about permanent upgrades, it includes all that is skill points, unlocking new skills, abilities, levels, stat increase, you name it. This type of progression mechanic is definitely the one which will probably make the biggest difference when you have 3000 hours in a game and your fresh installed little cousin wants to play with you. It will be boring. For you at least. The system, instead of giving you more power through tools, actually buffs your base stats directly. No need for any armor. You are the one who's powerful. Path of Exile. Jocab, you already mentioned it in your last point. And to that I must answer. Shut up. Path of Exile has the biggest skill tree I have ever seen in any video game I have ever played. Not only does it offer a massive amount of customization build-wise, but also provides permanent progression you can earn throughout years. Far Cry, however, does it quite originally, where your progression is visually represented on your arm in the form of a tattoo. That, going further and further into the game, completes itself. There is even an animation that plays each time you get a new part of it. Skyrim's armor is a big part of progression in the game, but if you wanted, you could go on a naked playthrough, because the game has a very wide range of permanent upgrades you can get by slaying dragons. Also, you can level up simply by reading a book, or get a new screen by rubbing your face all over a cave wall with strange symbols on it. The forest has a permanent progression mechanic based on your actions. The more you run, the longer and faster you'll be able to run. Hold your breath underwater, and the longer you'll be able to. It also has permanent upgrades in the form of bags and pouches you can't remove. So craft them once and you have them forever. Permanent upgrades don't always necessarily tie to your character. It also can be tied to the world and or buildings. A good example of this is Assassin's Creed Unity. In the game, you can purchase condemned buildings to turn them into cafes to earn that extra money. You can also renovate your main HQ, which plays a cinematic, showing you exactly what changed. Monster Hunter World, but Jocab, you mentioned it in your Monster Hunter World also has this type of visual upgrade. By completing quests, some of the parts of Asteroid, the Hunter HQ, will change and will offer more services, sell better stuff, etc. Capturing insects and creatures makes you able to display them in your room.
What the f are these huge ants?
Capturing a monster will display it sleeping on a platform in HQ, but games that have a system where the players have an impact on the world around them is a subject for an entirely different video. Be sure to let me know if you'd want to see that. Get Good is the brand new book by Blue Hair Fortnite Man, but is also what a bunch of games will give you as a progression system. A game devoid of a progression system will often be competitive, roguelike, puzzle, minigames, or simply make you go from point A to point B in a storyline or a mission. You'll have to do with what you learned. In competitive games, playtime is probably what will make the biggest difference when playing against other players. No skill points or armor will grant you more damage or stronger attacks. In that case, real-life skills earned by repeatedly playing can be considered the game's way of progressing. Osu is a prime example of skill-based progression. The only way you go from playing 1-star wave to 5-star wave is by trying over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and one day you're just like, hey, I did it. A lot of horror games tend to go without a progression system. All items are either single use or provide temporary buffs for you to run away or use as a distraction. Story-driven games progression is only about going further and further into the plot, learning about characters, and being spoiled. One must only play that type of game once to have massive advantage over someone who hasn't. The person who already has experienced the game will know what to expect and will make the right decisions. And that is story-based progression. It is a different kind of skill. It is more of a mental development. Same goes for real-time strategy games. They have progression, but only within matches.
Roses are red. Roses are blue.
For me, the best progression system a game can have is definitely all of them. Some games will rely more on raw skills, some other on armor, some other on levels, but ultimately a game which can have a balanced amount of all these mechanics would be the perfect progression system to me. Again, it all depends on which way the devs want their game to go. It would definitely be weird if Left 4 Dead 2 had things like levels or something, right? Wait, you need to be level 24 to use Bile Bomb. Sorry, f you. A game's progression most of the time is built to make you experience it in a specific way. It takes you from its starting point to ultimately get you to its end point. And then there's prestiging, but that's just throwing progression on top of replayability. Hello there, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was very long to make and very long to record. I had to record 134 plus clips from 59 different games. This video was kind of a personal challenge and also to have some kind of variety on my channel. I'd like to thank Stan for helping me with the script. You know who he is, go check him out, give him love. So yeah, I definitely hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.